Hello and welcome to this week's reminder video for what we did in the class, which was Enrosques and Giros and turns and wraps and little things like that. The eagle-eyed among you will notice that this is exactly the same set configuration as we had last week with the Christmas tree in the background and the jumpers, and that's because we recorded last week's video about 5 minutes ago. So yeah, we're a bit behind with one of them, but we're catching up again now, which is good. Anyway, Giros and Enrosques. Giros are where the follower goes around the outside of the leader and the leader sort of stays put. That's as opposed to calesitas, which we'll come on to in a minute, where the leader goes around the follower and the follower stays put. So there's two different options. And Enrosque is like a sort of spiral kind of thing. So you end up with this sort of corkscrew kind of effect that can look quite cool when done right. And so we were looking at how to do these two different things. So we'll start off with just a basic hero. Basic hero will lead with a forward step to start with. What we do, we create the space for our follower, and our follower enters the space, and then keeps going until the space goes away. And then at that point, there's nowhere for her to go, so she stops moving, okay? I think I've done enough videos about the details of Giros. Followers remember the four basic steps, unless led otherwise. It's always a forward, turning towards your leader, collect, side, allow your feet to collect, a back, a side. And you create this sort of four-sided circle. No, it's not really a square. I call it a squircle sometimes. People laugh at it. Anyway, whatever. It's kind of like four sections of a circle you're sort of going around. So we create that by creating the space. The follower goes into the space. We pivot on the spot on one leg. Yeah? I generally say it's the leg you're turning towards. So if you're going left, left leg. If you're going right, right leg. Everything I say for this, I'm going to do it on the left, the anti-clockwise hero. Pretty much everything applies exactly the same on the right-hand one. I'll show you the one difference in a minute. Now, something that often gets missed is that the energy for the hero needs to come from the follower. So as we lead this, the follower needs to maintain a solid frame and using the connection with the ground, push into there so the follower starts to push the lead around. Yeah, and you keep going until the space collapses. So all the time, as a follower, you've got this connection and you're driving forward with your standing leg and you're pushing the lead around. Don't let this arm go all floppy. Otherwise, nothing happens, and your leader will be standing there in a funny position going, why have we stopped? All of the energy, all of the motion comes from the follower. Like that. That gives us an opportunity to do a nice little enrosque while we're turning around. So if you watch my legs, I'll do the little blow-up thing of the video in the corner for this. So as I go around, I can enrosque and I allow the spiral to unwind in one direction. So I've wrapped around there and I let the spiral wrap, and then wrap up in the other direction. And then I can either walk out with that leg or I can change weight and walk out with that leg, and depending on where my follower ends up, that will depend on how many steps that you do in your hero. Because whilst it's generally 4, it doesn't have to be. So around, enrosque. There we go. Now. Keeping the pressure constant for the followers, very important. You can sort of absorb the variations in your arm. It takes a lot of practice, trust me. But try and just keep a constant pressure. Feel what the pressure is doing at your palm, not at your shoulder, and then you'll get the idea. It's also very important that you walk in a actual circle around your leader, because if you start heading off a bit, I'll just go with you, and it'll sort of end sideways. So, so keep a good circle around. Now, when you're going the other way, the problem, of course, is that you've got nothing obvious to push on. So here, you're going that way, you can push on here. That's nice and easy, yes? If you're going this way, here, it's a little bit harder. So you have to find a way of connecting up here and pulling sort of on this hand. So as you go around, you're sort of pulling on that hand. It's a lot harder to get right. Feel free to practice it. Followers, you can connect with the upper arm a little bit. That's what some followers do. Sorry if I follow for a second. What some followers do, they go from this position to this position so that they can provide a bit of push. What you can't do is just grip, because this arm for the leader still needs to be free. So you need to find a way of connecting those kind of things. Anyway, so that's Giros and a leader Enrosques. So we've looked at leader Enrosques and leader decorations. And now we're going to look at follower decorations. These are done on a calesita, which, if you remember from the top of the show, is the follower staying on one spot and the leader going around them. So a basic calesita will look something like this. Clunk there. We've led backwards, a bit of down. Look at last week's class for what I mean by down. We're going to start turning. Natalie has dissociated nicely. She carries around that position, lift, and then we can walk out of it however we like. Yes? First thing we can do is a little wrap. So, having done that there, if you think about that foot as being heavy and just sticking to the ground a little bit, it'll naturally wrap in. And then again, lift, unhook, and walk out. Yes? I won't go into too much detail. I think you can see it. Watch it in slow motion if you want to. Then there's another one that we can do. As I say, remember that this is all a follower-led thing. So the follower decides to do this. There's no lead for this. So the follower chooses to do this. And the thing about it is that we think about the followers very limited as to what they can do. They can just wave the leg around. But the follower can change weight as many times as they like, so long as they end up back where they started. So if they're on the right leg, you can do a cross, you can do a cross, you can there. Or you can do a little there kind of thing, or whatever. That's entirely up to you. You just need to end where you started. Otherwise, the leader is going to not know where you are, and it's all going to go a bit wrong. So, what we've got one here is we lead back into the calesita. We start exactly the same as the little wrap one. So as we turn, the first quarter of a turn, she wraps in. She then changes weight and then hooks the right leg around in front of there and changes weight. Slight projection back. That foot now stays where it is. So as we turn around, we end up there. Oh, look, we're back where we started from, which means I can now lift and walk out in exactly the same way as we were before. So that's a nice little follower variation. So altogether, this should look a little bit like this. So we start off with just the calesita, there, wrap in to there, wrap around to there, change weight, project the leg, keep everything where it is, and then at that point, lift, and we can walk out. Yes? So it's, there we go, I was behind you, neatly eclipsed. Yes, so that's kind of one version. There is another version, which is a little bit more funky. I've taught this a couple of times this week, and I found that one group found one of these easier, and the other group found the other one easier. So flip a coin and find out which one you're on. Starts off the same, calesita going in the same direction. This time, the follower lifts the leg. As soon as we start turning, she lifts the leg and crosses behind and immediately projects the right leg out the front. That leg then stays there all the way around until it wraps into a cross behind, change weight, and re-project the left leg, which takes us back to where we were for a lift and walk out. So once more for that. There. Lift and cross, project immediately. There. Keep that foot there, wrap around, cross behind, and there. And then you're staying in this same position. Lift, and we can walk out. So there we go. A few little variations of Giros and Enrosques that you can play with. Just remember that the Enrosque doesn't and shouldn't change the fundamental step at all. All it does is that it's a decoration that the leader in one case and the follower in the other case can add into the step. And then we, it just enhances the dance a bit. In theory, the other partner shouldn't realise or be affected by the Enrosque happening. And it should just sort of go on its own.